Yeah.
Yeah.
Are we?
Yeah.
Morning.
Morning.
Morning. Welcome to this week's topic. Are you healing it or handing it down? And this is we've taken our inspiration from Mark Wolynn's book, although a lot of what he talks about is there's a lot of similarities and synchronicities with what we do here. And later throughout this discussion, we'll be sharing an exercise with you, which is very much like what Ilka does in the Faster EFT sessions. And if you're not on our email list, I'll pop the link below this discussion and join up to the newsletter, because each Friday we'll send one out, and this topic will have that exercise in it, and you can go through that. Yes.
Yes.
So what do we mean by are you healing it or handing it down?
Yes. Well, if you're here and you're a parent, you might have noticed that some days, particularly if you get triggered, we always talk about this, that you hear the same words that you perhaps vowed never to say to your own children, but because something has triggered you, and this happens to me even now after all the work I've done on myself, sometimes my children will just say a certain thing, or certain things come up, and here I am spewing out something that perhaps, the same ways my father would have used to control, shaming, saying fearful things, wanting to get control in some way, and control the other person. And in Faster EFT, we call this living in the lower model of the world. And we're projecting, and we want the other person to do the things that we say, and we're not giving them, and my children are adults now, so they can make their own choices, but it comes from a fearful place. So we had it handed down to us, and then through these triggers and through not being conscious of who we are, like Joe and I were just having a discussion about how ingrained our childhood programming is to us. Like, my way of people pleasing as an adult was so ingrained. By the time I was 3-4 years of age, I already knew so many techniques and skills to, get that smile on daddy's face, or make sure mum wasn't too upset. Like, it's just, I changed my behavior. I learned to leave the room. I learned to do all sorts of little things that are making me get praise, or get encouragement, or lessen mum's burden for the day. And these are all the little coping skills that I learned to become the people pleaser that I was in my adult years. Now, I called it people pleasing then. And then I was handing down the way of people pleasing to my children as well. Like, you've got to worry about what other people think more than yourself. So I was doing all of that game. But the thing is, back then, before Faster EFT, before I started doing a lot of work on myself, I was so unconscious of how much I did this, because it was handed down to me in childhood. It was the way I survived my childhood. And a lot of it was serving me in my adult life, that I thought, right? But what would happen was, because people pleasing is really exhausting, even if you've learnt it as a child, because you're not often saying no to the things that you want to say no to, because you're so trained in not saying no. So before Faster EFT, I just hadn't pulled it all apart and saw all the places that I was doing this to myself. And by doing that, I could see, oh my God, that's why I would end up burnt out at the end of a couple of months of, being with my kids and trying to do everything that everybody wanted me to do and all those things. And because of my very behavior, I'm handing down this way of life to my children. So it can be, and the reason I'm saying this, it can be so subtle, the way that we're handing down ways of life that seem to be serving us, but on a really deep level, they're not serving us, because we do end up unhealthy, or we do end up with a dis-ease, we do end up with something going, something is terrible. Like we do end up with an addiction. We do end up with, we're using other ways to cope that aren't healthy. What about you?
Well, see, it's like for where, as you're speaking, I'm like, pictures are going through my mind of like the little child leaning in towards your parents. And for me, it was like the opposite. I'm leaning back, leaning away. I'm getting away inside my mind as much as possible. And so I'm learning abandonment as a coping skill. And later in my relationships, and when things got tough, I just wanted to run away. The safest thing to do was to get away as quickly as possible. And that's pretty much what I did in my marriage. I left my marriage. I had to get out. I feel this sense of needing to get away and be on my own. And what comes from that? Extreme independence, which may look healthy to some. I recall when I left my marriage, and people would say to me, like, really positive words about how I dealt with things. And really, it just wasn't healthy at all, because I'm running away. People even offered me their help, and I'd say, no, I'm fine. So people think I've got my shit all together. And yet inside, I'm just doing that same abandonment coping skill as I did as a child. So it's like I'm abandoning my environment and abandoning people around me, but I'm abandoning myself inside.
Yeah, that's it. And until you start to really become conscious of just how much you're doing your childhood coping skills, and yes, they are skills. That's the biggest thing. If you're new to this community, you're going to start learning that these things we developed in childhood are successful skills. It's just that as we become adults, if we don't become aware of how much we use them, and where they're now like negative and often detrimental to the way that, especially if we want to change our life in some way, like they can be really detrimental to how we are living. We might want to be doing this over here, and all our coping skills say, don't do that. Don't do that. Someone will reject you. Someone will abandon you. You'll get judged. You'll get criticized. You might want to start yoga teaching, or you might want to start like even with me starting to do faster ET, it's like, why do you want to do that? The voice in your head will start telling you, or why do you want to be a gentle parent? Maybe the people around you are not saying that that's like your kids will be spoiled, your kids will be like, they'll have their opinions. You've done all your research, but they've got all their opinions about it. And it will be your coping skills from childhood that you're trying to use to be with your own family. And, sometimes that's not what's going to work. It's just not saying, no, I don't want to come over this afternoon is what's going to work. But for me as a people pleaser, that was so difficult to say, I couldn't do that.
And for me, speaking up, it's slightly different in that I learn silence as a superpower, or say as little as possible, because I was so fearful of getting things wrong, of like this extreme criticism. Nothing I could say or do was, not that it was nothing, but that's how I feel when I look back on it, and that's how I felt as a child. And where I developed this skill to not seek up and to ask questions. I'm brilliant at networking events because I ask people things about themselves and easily turn the conversation away from me and back to them. And this is a coping skill from childhood.
Yeah, it all is. So this leads in beautifully to, really, if you're watching, thinking about just how perhaps if you've started to become more conscious and start asking yourself more questions about your childhood, you might be starting to really realize things about yourself. But this particular exercise that Joe's going to read out from Mark Wolynn's book, which is a brilliant book, it didn't start with me, and we're going to show you perhaps it's a brilliant exercise because it shows you where there's work to do. It's like, because you might be thinking, no, look, Ilka, everything's fine. I'm doing good. I'm okay. Like, I just keep my parents over there, or I keep my aunts and uncles over there, or whatever you do at the moment.
Control my environment. I just control my environment so that I feel better. I don't have to face it. I don't have to face them.
Yeah, that's it. That's it. And we say, my mentor, Robert G. Smith, says in Faster EFT that if you want to really see how spiritually evolved you are, then go to a family reunion and see if you can stay peaceful and calm and not untriggerable when you're at the family reunion. And I
did it recently, and I really noticed it, and how cool it was, because in the past I would have made excuses to not go.
Yeah, and you had family members who didn't go, didn't you? Like there were people who chose not to go because it's too difficult. Yeah. And that, as you said, Joe, that would have been you 10 years ago.
Oh, 4 years ago.
Yes. Yeah, so doing this inner work can make such a huge difference. So if you're listening along so read out this exercise. It's brilliant. And as I said, as Joe said, similar to what we do in the sessions.
It's really cool. And you can watch this video back. Maybe take note of, can we see how far along we are at this point? Is that possible? So. Okay. All right. And it will, I'll pop it in the post, and it will also.
So from 7:45.
Okay.
Yeah.
From 7:45, and I'll also put the text in the post, and it'll be in next Friday's email.
That's 12.
Okay.
Yeah.
Take a minute and feel the connection or disconnection you have with your parents. Regardless of the story you have about them, feel the relationship and how it affects your physical body. Visualize your biological parents standing in front of you. If you've never met them or cannot visualize them, just let yourself sense their presence. Hold the image and ask yourself the following. Do I welcome them or shut them out? Do I sense them as welcoming me? Do I experience one differently from the other? Is my body relaxed or tight as I visualize them? If a life-giving force were flowing from them to me, how much of it would be getting through? For example, 5%, 25, 50, or a full 100%? That's it. That is gold.
Yeah. And the most amazing thing about that exercise is that, and from a Faster EFT perspective, again, we know that everything inside us is who? Is us.
Ourselves.
Yeah. And this particular exercise, which is something we do regularly in the Faster EFT sessions with our mums and dads, working with some more dads. That's so cool. We do what we call an integration at the end of the tapping, and that always gives me it's a real testament to whether the person has truly let go of what's coming up inside them around this person. Because I say, similar to that exercise, see the person there in front of you, and if you invite them over, do they come? And if they don't, then we have to tap some more to help that person release anything that's coming up around them. And then we hug the person, we get a message from the person the person that we visualize gives us a message, and then even bigger still, we bring that person inside of us, because true forgiveness is really about what's going on inside of us when we're visualizing that person or sensing that person, or entertaining thoughts of that person. That's the disruption is all happening inside of us, and this is what can lead to dis-ease, to exhaustion, to overwhelm, to it's keeping different people inside of our heads, or people who represent people from our past, because usually the problem we have with our boss is just the problem we had with our dad anyway, or our mum. It's the same thing.
Yes, yeah. I remember as a in my late 30s, I decided to go to uni and study accounting, and the first job I got, my boss, the guy I worked most closely with, he was basically my mother, and I would leave work crying.
Yes, because our filter is from what we started off in this video. Joe and I were talking about how, and we watched Gabor Mate's film, and if you didn't get a chance to watch that, hopefully we'll be able to screen that again one day, because it was super, super powerful. And the chat we had with people afterwards was, massive light bulb moments. Just wanted to write everything he said down. So much gold in that video. If you haven't seen Gabor Mate's work, like start watching some of his YouTube videos. You want to really
that doco was the wisdom of trauma, and what was really big in it was how much he spoke about it going back to childhood. He specializes in addictions. And he's saying it's not about the addiction. Find out what happened to the person. Find out about their childhood, and that's what they're that's what they're connecting with when they engage in the addictions. Yeah. And it's so cool to see this this work becoming more and more out there, because he had some experience in the medical world as well, and he spoke about how little doctors are taught to explore trauma or what's happened in the person's life before they prescribe a solution.
Yes. And I know the fast EFT process, we had a medical doctor who was a urologist. He studied Robert's work, and all the medical people, all the medical doctors started sending him their worst clients. The ones that, and I've got a video about that. I can actually post it under this video where he is speaking about that. And he's saying that, because he knew how to address, we call it in fast EFT, the first and the worst is usually what we're trying to address. So the first imprint, where you get the belief system because something, and usually sometimes they're both the same. But often the emotional charge might not be with the first time it ever happened, because then you've had other things happen, and it's kind of a similar, like if your first rejection might not be the one that is the main one you're focused on, but there's usually the worst one and the first one. And if we can clear the trauma around those particular imprints, memories, experiences in your life, then it makes a massive change in how you do your life. You can absolutely change. From me being a people pleaser, I now can, choose to do life the way that is good for me, even when I'm around my family members, which is just incredible to me. It's really, really powerful stuff to shift this, and then not be handing down that same pattern and programming that you received as a child to your children. And as Joe and I always say, you don't have to, like, even if you've got adult children and you're in this group, It's never too late. Because I noticed now, even with my, 23-year-old daughter the other day, I said something to her that was just horrendous. And I apologized straight away because I realized, oh my gosh, there I go again. I got triggered. I felt it in my body. I got triggered. I said something I didn't mean to say. And, but it's heavily in there. When we're scared, we go to the coping skill.
Yeah, and it's a pretty powerful relationship to have with your adult child, to recognise when you say something that's coming from your own pain, and be comfortable in apologising for it, and you can both move on peacefully, and they don't hold a grudge against you, and you can be open and honest about, I'm so sorry, I just reacted and didn't respond.
We can even have a laugh about it. Yeah. I love that Brene Brown just says, all children are going to need therapy. Her children have therapy. Mine have had therapy.
I remember once my 22-year-old son came to visit recently, and he said something to me about something that he wanted to achieve in the future. And I immediately went, oh, how are you going to do that? Do you think that like straight into how? And he pulled me up, and I went, oh no, I'm so sorry I did that. Hang on, can you say that again so that I can respond differently? And he laughed and he went, nah, just learn from that. Oh, do it better next time. And we both had a laugh about that. So yeah.
Yeah, it
Wouldn't have been that way in the past.
Oh, that's it. It's such a completely different way to live. And I have often started tapping in the middle of conversations with my daughter, and I'm only just starting to learn how to turn it around in real life, where I can be the person who can listen and just like she says, Mom, she asked me the other day, Mom, I just really thought it would be awesome if you'd sent me a gift. Now, anyone who knows me, especially in my family, gifts are not my thing. I've done a lot of tapping on gift giving, and it has all sorts of links to my childhood where gifts came with certain anyway, that's a long story. But the short story is that after all my tapping on gift giving and unlinking it from negative connotations, when my daughter asked me if about how she'd love to have a gift, I actually ended up sending her a gift. I got someone to deliver it to her, and she was just so excited and so blown away, and I was excited too. And I know in the past I would have probably dug my heels in. I would have been like, no, bugger you, because I had a lot of programming around gift giving. Or
maybe even not that this would have been you. I get that you would have dug your heels in, but the other thing could be to send it, but with resentment.
Oh, yes, it would have totally been sent with resentment. Yes. That's it. So there's I was watching another video this morning about emotional, we often talk about emotional abuse, but I was watching a Teal Swan video where she talked about emotional neglect and how it's kind of the unseen thing. And of course you don't know, because it's just that you didn't get support. You didn't get encouragement. Joe.
Yeah, you don't even know what it is.
But as a child, you don't know that other people are getting more support than you, or getting more encouragement than you, or getting their, more cuddles than you. Your childhood is the only thing that you know. So it's often not until you get to school or somewhere like that. And I've had many clients who say to me that when they got to school and somebody was coming up to their friend, the parent was coming up to their friend and giving them a hug, it was when they first saw that was a possibility in their life, and what a very, very sad day that was, because they realized that they weren't getting that. So this is another area that you can look at too, is what were you not receiving? And it's often the thing that you're going after through something like addiction, or even through, partnerships. Like for me, even with my husband, I'm going after this need to have appreciation and acceptance and things like that. And when he doesn't give it to me, I'm just so disappointed and so upset, because I'm still searching for the thing I didn't get from my father through my husband for, as I've talked about many times, like 18 years, I'm trying to get it through him. Now, he doesn't even know that I'm doing that. He doesn't know. I don't tell him.
Yeah.
I don't say, oh, I'd really like, I do now, which is another massive shift. Like I can say things like, I really just need you to encourage me right now. And people go, oh, Ilka, you shouldn't have to say it like that. Yes, when you're an adult, you do have to say it like that. Another adult who's grown up with a different childhood to you cannot be expected to know if you need encouragement or not. They're living, they've got their own programming and they've got their own world, but adult to adult, we need to get much better. And I know, I'll just speak for myself, get better at, and it's been amazing to be able to do that, to say, I need appreciation right now. Could you just say this to me right now? And sometimes I even give him the words he needs to say. But it's better than sulking, which is what I used to do, sulking and or giving him the cold shoulder.
Yes. That I'm fine when I'm really not.
Yeah.
But but to do that, it may sound like it's easy to do that, but the risk of rejection in doing that, for me, way back, was far too big. I had this big shield up around me. So to ask anybody to change their behavior to meet my needs, no way. Too much risk of rejection. I don't need you. I don't need you to do anything for me. I'm fine over here. Yes. Rubbish.
Yeah, rubbish. Yeah, that's it. So then we go out and shop, or we go and do something, that's going to meet that need. But when
eat was one of my favorites.
Oh, eat, yes. So, but when we start to change the childhood traumas, and again, I want a big shout out to the women that show up on our calls. It is an incredibly courageous act. Like, it's just, I've been doing a few sessions on myself recently, and because I've done sessions on myself for 7. It's like I've been doing this work for 7 years. So I've got busy with clients and haven't done, a session every month. I used to do always, and I've gone a few months without doing them. And then I did one the other day. And again, I was reminded of, to be really, truly honest with yourself. And to say some of the shameful things, to say the embarrassing things, to talk about your parents, because your parents, we know your parents did the best they could, but to say, oh, this really hurt when my dad said that, in front of another person, because a lot of us don't want to vilify our parents, so we don't want to blame them, but in not going to the pain and the hurt of our own childhood wounds, we don't release them and we don't clear them up. So there's no benefit in just trying to hide a wound that, is really there and it's showing up everywhere in our life. But this is why Joe and I say it takes so much courage to do this work. And it's a massively big step to sit in front of somebody. And, and the mums that come along, they often have had a week where they've done stuff like I do with my kids, where they've yelled or they've done the exact opposite of gentle parenting when they're a gentle parent, and and everything about them values gentle parenting, but they get that, their own childhood wound came out and they spewed it all over their child, or they walked away from their child, or they didn't spend the time with their child that they wanted to. And they show up on our calls and they say these things in front of other women, in front of me, and it's incredibly courageous. And then,
Yes,
but
it
then
is.
they're able to let it go. And that is where the gold is, because on the other side is lightness, is peace, is more love for self. You know, it's just it's the most amazing process to watch happen.
And often we're driven to gentle parenting, conscious parenting because of our trauma, because we want to do it better or do it differently. But then, and this is why we say children are our greatest teachers, then it shows up in our parenting. And then we can go into guilting ourselves because, but I wanted to do it consciously. I wanted to do it gently. I wanted to do it differently. And here I am going into behaviour that I detest. So how do you turn around? Who do you share that with and tell them? I just defaulted into behaviour that I really dislike about myself. Yeah. But you can come up, it took me, it was 47 when I first joined a group of women where I slowly felt comfortable enough to share the deep shame and the relief in that, the gold in that, and that's what you can do, because we all know we default to patterns.
Yeah. And that's the beauty of
okay.
Exactly. And that's the beauty of coming along and doing these calls and letting it go, because I totally know. I've been there so many times myself where I turned into the person I didn't want to be as a parent.
Yes.
And
don't do this work because I think the key thing is we don't do this work with others because we were amazing parents.
Yeah, that's it. Sometimes, but not all the time. Sure, we had our amazing moments, Jo.
Yeah.
And that we want to have this kind of relationship with our children moving forward. This is the relationship that we want. And we want all the parents in this group to be able to have a connected relationship with their children, and, whatever that means for you. So, so subscribe to our email list, like this video. We're going to put because the email will have that exercise that Jo read out from Mark Wolynn's book. These are really amazing books. You know, Dr. Gabor Mate's books are amazing. Mark Wolynn's book, It Didn't Start With You. They're all, what do you call it? They help, they support our work. They are beneficial to learning about the kind of work that I do and that we do in the Awakened Parent here. So yeah. So wonderful things you can listen to them on audio and that too for busy mums and dads.
Yeah. And there's a load of our own videos on YouTube as well.
Yes.
Yeah. And join us on Thursday nights for 30-minute tap along sessions.
Yes.
So tomorrow night, if you're listening live.
Yes.
Every Thursday night, 30 minutes, and they will eventually be turned into an app or podcast where you can search what your challenge is, what you're going through right now, and choose that topic and tap along.
Yes, I don't think we've chosen tonight's topic, so we might have to post that later, what we're tapping on tonight. But it's good because you can just choose your own and tap along with whatever you want to tap along with.
Yeah. There is one of the members in our group gave us a suggestion, which we said would be a great idea. I can't actually remember what that topic was, but yes.
Okay. We'll think of that.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah. Yay.
All right. Cool.
So yes, we'll see you next Wednesday.
Okay.
Bye.
Bye.